proposal for bike lanes on Parkside Drive may be the latest battleground over where they should be installed and whether a traffic lane can be removed. Good afternoon. City staff are recommending a bike lane on the west side of Parkside Drive, but it's already a badly congested road. You can see that behind us.
And the bike lane would take away a live lane of southbound traffic, which the province will not allow. CTV's Mike Walker joins us now live from Parkside Drive with more on the situation. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan, this issue could be contentious because the city first revealed the proposed changes for Parkside Drive on the same day the Ford government announced it would introduce new legislation that would require municipalities to get provincial approval for new bike lanes. Now, the proposed changes would include a nearly 4-kilometre two-way cycle track on the west side of Parkside Drive between Bloor West and Lakeshore. This is part of a bigger plan to improve safety on this dangerous stretch of road. According to the city, there have been nearly 1,500 collisions here over the past decade, including 2 deaths. But as mentioned, this plan may now be up in the air with the Ford government set to introduce legislation that would give the province the final say on bike lane projects that take away a lane for vehicles, arguing it adds to congestion. This $7.5 million proposal would reduce the number of lanes on Parkside Drive from 4 to 3, the city stating that would increase travel times by up to 3 minutes. But when it comes to bike lane projects like this one, the transportation minister says the province is committed to working with the city. Here's more.
Our policy is basically saying that you cannot remove a lane of traffic to then accommodate for a bike lane. So this would still allow municipalities to introduce bike lanes that don't remove that lane of traffic. And it's about considering the challenges around gridlock that people are facing in our cities.
I do not support limiting city powers. Our city planners and our transportation team have done a lot of hard work in coming up with a plan.
It's not about bike lanes, it's about safety. And this street needs to be addressed before more people die. We don't want to see any more people die on this street. The province would be wise to focus on people's safety rather than commute times.
I would run the bike lanes on the adjacent parallel streets, the streets that run parallel to Parkside Drive, rather than trying to push more traffic onto those streets. Those streets should be for bikes and pedestrians.
Now, the city staff say this work is expected to begin in 2026, but we can expect a lot more questions at City Hall about this proposal, with it set to go before the Infrastructure Committee on Tuesday. Reporting live by Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. And still to come on CTV News at noon, we have exclusive video of a major drug raid on a magic mushroom lab. That's coming up this half hour.
But first, a look at the forecast. Here's a live shot. Lots of sunshine, clear, a cool start to the day, but temperatures are rising and the warm weather's returning for a few days. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jess.
It really is a beautiful start to the day. Very seasonal one ahead of us as winds start to change, becoming more southerly, and it will help to start to warm things up. We are settling now into a bit of a sunny stretch, a high pressure trend that's going to hold firmly over the next 5 to almost 7 days. So if you miss the warmer fall weather, we have that and then some as we head in towards the weekend and through to the beginning of next week. Temperature wise right now, it's not bad. Between about 8 and 11 degrees for the most part, a little warmer through Goderich, but overall we're relatively calm and clear and cool to start the day. Right now through the islands and Pearson, it is about 12 degrees apiece, a southwesterly or west southwesterly wind, very light in nature this afternoon, right on par for seasonal, and then we're looking at winds staying fairly consistent throughout the day. Heading into the week ahead, things are going to change, or the end of the week I should say, and through to the weekend, and it gets warm. All those details just ahead. Right now back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. Next to a legal battle over plans to extend the license for a long-term care home in Pickering.
The poor conditions at Orchard Villa came to light during the pandemic. CTV's Scott Lightfoot is covering this story and joins us now live. Scott.
Yeah, the Ontario Health Coalition has launched this legal challenge. They're suggesting in court documents that the government has actually violated its own legislation by allowing for an extension of this license as well as an expansion of Orchard Villa. The government says they believe that this legal action should be thrown out. Now, of course, Orchard Villa gained notoriety during the pandemic. More than 70 residents there died. The military was sent in to get that home under control. A report from the Canadian Armed Forces found deplorable conditions for patients and staff inside that long-term care home. So in 2022, the province passed the Fixing Long-Term Care Homes Act, which aimed to improve standards in Ontario's nursing homes. But the Ontario Health Coalition and a number of families who had family members inside that home are here today launching a legal challenge, saying that by granting a new 30-year license extension to Southbridge Care Homes, they're the current operator of the home. They were not in charge during the first wave of the pandemic, as well as the province issuing a ministerial zoning order, which in the short term would see an 88-bed expansion, but could see hundreds of new beds added. They're suggesting that the government has actually violated its own law. Here's what they had to say this morning before heading into court.
Pandemic itself should have been its own never again, but then to consistently have poor inspection reports and non-compliance after the pandemic for the years that have come, or as the pandemic has abated, is, it's indefensible how they would give them a new license.
What I'm hoping for today is that there will be a really clear decision that the ministry has to follow their own act, which states that they have to take the history of the house, of the long-term care home into account before they can issue a license.
Lawyers for the province suggesting this legal challenge should be thrown out. Now, in a statement, a spokesperson from the Ministry of Long-Term Care told CTV News, quote, all proposed license extensions must undergo a rigorous undertaking process to show they can meet the new high standards, as is the case with the proposed Pickering development. Now, the hearing continues here. It could be several months before a decision. Reporting live, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. This afternoon, people across the country are watching for the outcome of a high-profile case related to climate change at the province's top court. The Court of Appeal for Ontario heard arguments earlier this year over the Ford government's climate change plan. 7 young people filed a suit arguing a weakened emissions target is a violation of their constitutional rights. While a trial judge ruled that wasn't the case, her decision agreed there was a, quote, large and unexplained gap between how much emissions need to be cut globally and what the provincial plan calls for. It's the first case to be tried in Canada that considers whether climate change has the potential to infringe on charter rights.
Ontario NDP is filing a complaint with the province's Integrity Commissioner over what they allege was special treatment received by the company building a spa at Ontario Place. NDP leader Marit Stiles said in the complaint about Infrastructure Minister Kinga Surma, she has many questions about how the 95-year lease evolved to include a multi-million-dollar 2,500 space parking lot that would be paid for by taxpayers, not spa company Therma.
We know that this government has kept this Integrity Commissioner very busy, unfortunately. He has a lot on his plate, but this is a very significant issue, and I think it is in the public's interest that the Integrity Commissioner investigate.
The province has previously stood by the lease, saying it would bring in about $2 billion over its 95-year term. We have much more online. Just head to ctvnewstoronto.ca.
Now to a CTV W5 investigation and an Ontario woman who was allegedly sexually assaulted by a group of junior hockey players sharing her harrowing story publicly.
The woman says she contacted police twice, but in her conversation with W5's Rick Westhead, she says police told her they couldn't help.
I hope one day that I can find peace again with myself.
In 2014, when Anne-Marie was 22, she met a 19-year-old Ontario Hockey League player. After being in a casual relationship with him for 6 months, he invited her to join him and a friend to watch TV at the player's billet home. The parents were in the living room.
Waved and said hi, walked downstairs. They never asked any questions. And when I got to the bottom of the stairs, I realized that it was not just him and a couple of buddies. There were 8 players in that room.
Anne-Marie says she was led into the bathroom by the player who invited her over, and what started as consensual fooling around became a group sexual assault.
Next thing I know, more players start coming in. They just begin taking their turns, some more than once.
The next day, Anne-Marie asked her doctor for a test for sexually transmitted diseases. She did not get a rape kit. She told a friend about what had happened. CTV spoke with that woman and confirmed their phone conversation. The woman said she remembers Anne-Marie told her she didn't plan to go to police because some of the 16-year-old players had seemed to be pressured by the 19-year-old player who invited her to the house.
I thought it was my fault. I thought I was the one that was responsible because I had made the choice to go hang out with this guy and a couple of buddies.
Anne-Marie said she contacted the Ontario Provincial Police earlier this year. When she told an officer she'd been assaulted by junior hockey players, some of whom went on to play in the NHL, she was told there was nothing the OPP could do to help because she needed to report the incident to police where the alleged attack took place. But when she did that, again police told her to go elsewhere and report it to the police station closest to where she lived. Arun Maney is a former Crown attorney who says the police should have done better.
They should have offered to provide her the necessary assistance to put her in touch with the right people.
It wasn't just that police let her down. Her own lawyer gave her shocking advice that the alleged attackers could try to have her charged.
Some of these individuals at the time were not even men yet. They were teenagers.
Simone Jelinek, Anne-Marie's lawyer, has been involved in dozens of similar cases involving junior hockey players. She told Anne-Marie something surprising, that because of the age gap between her and her alleged attackers, there was a remote chance that she could be the one facing assault charges.
In this situation, because of the age gaps, that was more of a concern than if, for instance, all of the players involved were of her same age or older than her.
She says that because of a section in Canada's criminal code that addresses power imbalances, those age differences could be worrisome. And that warning left Anne-Marie thinking twice about pursuing criminal charges and filing a civil lawsuit.
She was the one who was in a strange place, surrounded by strangers. The idea that she would have taken sexual advantage of one of them in that context simply does not have the air of reality.
Crown Attorney Arun Maney insists the possibility of criminal charges against the victim are extremely unlikely. Although she didn't file a report with police, she did, after 10 years, finally tell her family, who were devastated with her news.
Complete and utter just shock and disbelief. Why didn't I come to them? Why didn't I tell them?
That's W5's Rick Westhead reporting. And Rick reached out to the Ontario Provincial Police about the story. And after reviewing the call between Anne-Marie and an OPP operator, a spokesperson confirmed there was a lapse in policy. They say the OPP operator provided Anne-Marie with contact information for the police service in the jurisdiction where this allegedly happened, but the OPP says the call taker should have connected Anne-Marie directly and remained on the line to confirm a report was being initiated, and that did not happen.
We have a CTV News exclusive next. We were on the scene as York Regional Police conducted a major magic mushroom drug bust.
The investigation got started in Stouffville, and that led police to a larger drug operation south of Guelph. CTV's John Musselman reports.
This was the view from the CTV helicopter when York Regional Police moved in on an illegal drug lab. It was discovered in a small building at the back of a rural property just north of the 401, about 25 kilometers from Guelph.
We're here as a result of an active investigation that stems from a search warrant that York Regional Police Gun, Gang and Drug Enforcement Unit executed back in August of this year. As a result of that investigation, we were led here and a search warrant was executed at this property. And investigators found an active clandestine lab at the rear of the property where psilocybin, commonly known as magic mushrooms, are being grown.
Police say the original investigation began at a residence in Stouffville in August. It was a small operation, but it led them to this larger production facility. Emergency crews, including the local fire department, were on standby as a precaution. Specially trained officers were called in to dismantle the lab. Investigators say they are seeing an increase in the production and sale of magic mushrooms right across the GTA.
We've noticed an uptick in the amount of retail magic mushroom stores that are being opened up. These locations are operating illegally. The production, trafficking, and possession of magic mushrooms or psilocybin is absolutely illegal, and I think that some citizens or members of the public are out there are shopping at these places, maybe not realizing that these people are committing a crime by selling it to them, and they are also committing a crime by possessing that drug.
Before moving into this rural address, police executed a search warrant at a residence in Hamilton last night. They recovered 100 pounds of magic mushrooms with a street value of more than $450,000.
Well, to somebody who is not used to the product, it could be extremely dangerous, especially if somebody were to, for example, get behind the wheel of a car. It's a hallucinogenic drug.
Police say this is an active investigation. No charges have been laid yet. Anyone with information about these illegal drug labs is asked to call York Regional Police or Crime Stoppers. John Musselman, CTV News.
Investigators are sharing an update on a crash in Mississauga last night that sent multiple patients to hospital. Two vehicles collided near South Down Road and South Sheridan Way around 6:30 p.m. First responders said a driver suffered a medical episode and was taken to hospital in critical condition after life-saving measures were carried out at the scene. He is now expected to survive. Another man suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries, and a woman suffered minor injuries.
Peel police have arrested a man accused of stealing more than $250,000 worth of goods from the LCBO over the past year. Awil Hassan Abdi is facing multiple theft charges in connection with the incidents. Police say nearly $260,000 worth of products were stolen from LCBO locations across the GTA. $160,000 of that total was taken from stores in Peel. The alleged thefts happened between October of 2023 and September of this year. We have breaking news from Ottawa, where 4 more Liberal cabinet ministers have informed the Prime Minister's office they won't be running in the next election. Philomena Tassi has announced she won't be running for personal reasons. She is the minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario. But Tassi says she still believes in Trudeau's leadership and plans to stay on as MP until the election. Meanwhile, CTV News has confirmed National Revenue Minister Marie-Claude Bibeau, Sports Minister Carla Qualtrough, and Northern Affairs Minister Dan Vandal also won't be on the ballot. A cabinet shuffle is now expected. Here's CTV's Rachel Aiello in the nation's capital.
We have reached out to the Prime Minister's office for comment, both to get his reaction to these high-profile departures, but also to see if they will say anything about what comes next. Obviously, this comes amid continuing pressure on the Prime Minister from within his caucus. CTV News has reported that as of next week's Liberal caucus meeting, there are a few members of his team that will be going to him directly and asking for him to consider stepping aside. So the timing of a minister leaving is never good, but certainly this announcement from 4 cabinet ministers today that they will not be running again just days before that high-stakes Liberal caucus meeting is certainly of note, and I'm sure that the Prime Minister is feeling the pressure of this massive political update.
Justin Trudeau's leadership has been criticized by some in the party as the government's polling numbers declined alongside his approval ratings, but Trudeau has so far been steadfast in his plans to stay on as leader for the election.
We're watching for more reaction today following the Prime Minister's testimony at the federal inquiry into foreign interference. Justin Trudeau said yesterday he has a list of Conservatives who are engaged in or vulnerable in foreign meddling.
I have directed CSIS and others to try and inform the Conservative Party leader to be warned and armed to be able to make decisions that protect the integrity of that party, of its members, from attempts at foreign activities around foreign interference.
Trudeau criticized Pierre Poilievre for refusing to get the security clearance needed to be briefed on the list. The Conservative leader accused the PM of lying and demanded he publicly release the list of names. CTV's Scott Hurst has been following the fallout from the Prime Minister's explosive testimony. Scott, take us through some of the key moments at the inquiry.
Nathan, we are getting more reaction to some of the more notable comments and moments from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's testimony at the inquiry into foreign interference, most notably, as you were saying, regarding him, yes, singling out the Conservative Party of Canada and Pierre Poilievre, but also admitting later during further questioning that there were Liberal members and other party members on that list of parliamentarians allegedly vulnerable to foreign interference. But in reference to the Conservative Party of Canada, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre fired back quickly, accusing Trudeau of making it up and demanding he release the names. In a statement, Poilievre accusing Trudeau of lying to distract from a Liberal caucus revolt, as you were mentioning, and as we heard from Rachel Aiello, CTV News reporting that several MPs are planning to ask the Prime Minister to step aside ahead of the next election. Here's more reaction from CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader.
This was all about the Liberals trying to focus and attack Pierre Poilievre to avoid having to answer, one, what they have not done on foreign interference, and two, Trudeau's leadership problems. We learned today, for example, that there are a lot of MPs who are about to come out and ask outright for Trudeau to step down. So these are all attempts to distract and get away from the issues at hand. And I think that Canadians are a lot smarter than that.
That was, of course, Tom Mulcair, former NDP leader. We also got reaction this morning from current NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, while also calling out Poilievre for not getting the security clearance. He went on to say he's calling for the release of names as well, however, with appropriate concerns for national security. Jagmeet Singh echoing that in the name of transparency, Canadians ought to know who was involved, Nathan.
Also, Scott, we learned more about the ongoing diplomatic standoff with India. What do we know about that?
Yeah, the Prime Minister added more context to the allegations and what we heard from the RCMP earlier this week regarding India's alleged involvement in violence, a campaign of violence on Canadian soil. And this latest testimony by Trudeau, of course, in the middle of the escalating diplomatic clash between India and Canada, as we've been reporting all week. Both countries expelling diplomats as the RCMP revealed what's believed to be a campaign of violence. Trudeau, in his testimony, saying in the wake of the killing of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey, BC in June 2023, Canada attempted a diplomatic path with India that summer before the G20 summit that was being held in New Delhi. But then the Prime Minister confronted Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi about Canadian intel. And according to Trudeau, Modi countered with concerns about people living in Canada outspoken about the Indian government. Now, in the wake of the escalating tension that threatened to wreak havoc on Canada-India relations, we know that both the UK and the UN are urging the Indian government to cooperate with Canadian authorities, Nathan.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst on the foreign interference inquiry. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
In the Middle East, Palestinian officials reported at least 28 people were killed in an Israeli strike on a school being used as a shelter in Gaza today. Nearly 100 people were injured in the attack in Jabalia. Israel says it targeted dozens of militants who were meeting inside the school. The Israeli military is checking the possibility that Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar was among 3 militants killed during an operation in the Gaza Strip. He was the chief architect of the October 7th attack on Israel that started the Gaza war. There was no immediate comment from Hamas.
A memorial is growing outside a Buenos Aires hotel following the death of One Direction singer Liam Payne. Mourners are laying flowers and lighting candles outside the Casa Sur Hotel in memory of the 31-year-old who died yesterday after falling from a third-floor hotel balcony.
The Ontario Medical Association is outlining what it says are potential solutions to the province's healthcare crisis.
The organization is specifically focused on increasing the number of family doctors. CTV's Beth McDonnell has the details.
It breaks my heart when I have to say the practice is full.
Dr. Dominic Nowak is a family physician and president of the Ontario Medical Association. He and his colleagues made an impassioned plea to bolster the number of family doctors across the province.
We're seeing these numbers all across the province, but Toronto is hard hit as well. The GTA is hard hit. We're seeing nearly 1 in 4 people who can't find a family doctor.
According to the OMA, there are more than 2.5 million people without a family doctor now, a number they predict will grow to 4.4 million in less than 2 years.
We're paying for it eventually, right? People are paying for it in terms of their health, and then our healthcare system is paying for it by supporting these more expensive types of care.
The OMA is concerned about the lack of people who want to be family doctors, the burden and cost of running practices, and hours of paperwork taking them away from patients.
33 months from start to finish, and it was not a fun 33 months, I can tell you.
Stephen Steele knows how critical having that family doctor is. His referral for hip surgery got lost in the system for 2 years. Eventually, he went back to his family doctor for help.
If I hadn't had a GP in the first place, it would have been a disaster.
A spokesperson for Ontario's health minister says since 2018, the government has added 12,500 physicians to the workforce, a 10% increase. The government also points to expanding the medical education system and investing in primary care teams to free up thousands of hours for patients.
Let's support those practices. Let's let doctors focus on being doctors so that we can attach everyone in this province to a family doc.
Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
We are settling into a stretch of sunny and warm days as high pressure moves in and takes hold of us here in southern Ontario as we step in towards the weekend and really through to the beginning of next week. We're very seasonal today, but the heat is on as we step in towards the days ahead, climbing back into the 20s as we step in towards the weekend. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast showing you just how warm it is going to get and how long this sunny weather is sticking around.
Have a look at this. Did you see the super moon last night? This was the view from our CTV News chopper early this morning, and wow, gorgeous.
Yeah, when I was heading home last night, you couldn't help but notice. Massive, and I guess this is as close as it's going to be.
Yeah, it's really cool. I live down kind of, towards the downtown core, and it was so bright in the city. At first, you were like, okay, someone left a street light on or something, but it was really quite beautiful and so big. I think we have one more supermoon before the year is all said and done, but this one was really close, and I think that's why it felt so spectacular, and it was so clear you could actually see it.
Yeah, we get that. And the good news is that even like it happens when the full moon coincides with the moon being closest to Earth. But wow, even as it dissipates the full moon, it's still going to look good in the days ahead, and we have clear skies to look forward to.
And then some. We really do settle into a slightly abnormal stretch where we are sitting around 20 degrees heading into the weekend. I know we're approaching Halloween, and it's always a time of year where it's like, do you put the snowsuit under the costume? Can you just wear the costume as is if you're participating in trick-or-treating? And we're still a little ways away, but it's looking to be pretty nice, at least as we head in towards the end of the month. Weather is brought to you by the Presser Law Firm. Injury lawyers you don't pay unless they win. Now, a beautiful and sunny, albeit a little cool start to the day. A few light clouds out there, but we are settling into an above seasonal trend and a whole lot of high pressure over the next 5 to almost 7 days. So if you do have outdoor plans, you want to get all those fall activities in before the weather really does start to change. This is the week and weekend to do it. We're sitting right now fairly comfortable. Winds are westerly, becoming southwesterly later on, so it will be relatively mild, all things considered. Already at about 12 degrees here in the city, 13 through Windsor, 11 in Ottawa, even up through Timmins, they're sitting at 12. So everyone kind of benefiting from a bit of a ridge that will build into the jet stream. Now, very seasonal as we head throughout the day today, a few degrees above, in fact, and that's really the same for almost everybody. Owen Sound at 16, Peterborough at 15, Niagara at 15. It's quite comfortable throughout the day with a very light wind. Tonight, fairly seasonal around the Golden Horseshoe, a little cooler out towards Waterloo region through Bancroft, but we are sitting kind of where we should be for at least just for today, and then things are going to change. There's really not much going on in your satellite radar picture because we have multiple areas of high pressure that are set to move in, park themselves, and they aren't going anywhere as we head in towards the end of the week and step in towards your weekend. There's really, I promise you, the forecast radar board, it works. There's just quite literally nothing going on. There's no real cloud cover out there over the next 3 to 4 days. So we get into this evening, it's nice and cool. Into your Friday morning, lots of sunshine out there. I wear really good idea when it comes to sunglasses because it is a little challenging when you're driving at those key times of the day when that sun is right at your sight line. Heading into your Friday afternoon, maybe you're taking off a little early, beautiful conditions, and it's nice and clear through your Friday night. Your Saturday, more of the same. It really does get quite beautiful, but the heat is on as we head in towards your weekend. So if you do have you gotta get your pumpkin, you gotta put your decorations up, you have to do apple picking, get your cute pictures, all those things. Do it this weekend because it's gonna be really beautiful outside. Temperature-wise, very seasonal as we head throughout the day today. Into your Friday, that's when things start to ramp up. We get up to about 18 degrees, so we're sitting above seasonal to start and end the day. And then stepping into the weekend, we're back into the 20s. That really is the same story right across southern Ontario. So maybe you're traveling to go visit friends or family, hitting up the Argos game on Saturday afternoon. It'll be really quite nice out there. And you probably won't need all those extra layers. As we head in towards our Sunday evening, it gets really warm. I know some people have been telling me their condo buildings, if you live in a condo, the heat is already on. It could be a little challenging because you're going on the opposite end of the scale because it will be quite warm out there. 14 into your Sunday night. Into Monday, up to 23 degrees, a seasonal norm for this time of year is around 13, so we're 10 degrees above the seasonal average. And as we head in towards your Tuesday, your Wednesday, things start to cool down just a little bit, but overall, it's not too bad as we step in towards what's going to be a fantastic couple of days.
To a story now parents with teens will want to hear about. Meta has announced new measures aimed at protecting teens from sextortion when scammers target teens, announcing new safety measures. Our tech analyst Carmi Levy joins us now live to talk more about this. Carmi, great to have you on. Help us understand these new measures to protect teens.
So, this might sound familiar because just a few weeks ago, Instagram was announcing its new Instagram for Teens feature where it made all these accounts private. And this kind of continues the process. It adds resources both to parents and teens to make it easier for them to spot sextortion, define what it is, identify the signs. And then once they think that sextortion is occurring, give them tools to then actually deal with it, how to report it, who they should be connecting with, what they should be telling them, what that process looks like. So they've released a video that has kind of a very detailed walkthrough of that sort of definition and process. It links to a website. It's instagram.com/preventsextortion. And essentially what they're doing is they're working with some of the leading experts in these technologies to identify and sort of put these tools in parents' and kids' pockets. And this really is the next step in their fight against sextortion to make kids safer in the digital space.
Well, we know Instagram and other social media platforms are under pressure to do more to address all the negative effects of their platforms on teens. But it does raise the question, can you put the genie back in the bottle here? Do you think Instagram and other platforms can do a better job? Do you think there's things that they can do?
I really wish that were the case. I wish we could wave a wand, come up with an app, some kind of magic technology that makes this problem go away. But we know full well that this is a problem that's 20 years in the making. Social media has been around for a couple of decades. It has been identified as a vector for targeting younger people. We know that predators have established their own best practices. They're very adaptive. I hate to give them credit, but they're incredibly smart. They know how to work their way around these tools. And unfortunately, parents and kids, and frankly, all of us, haven't done our due diligence. We've kind of ignored the problem. We've allowed kids to just use apps as they wish. We haven't really had those conversations with them. So, no, this isn't going to go away. This will certainly help. It is better than nothing, and I certainly want to give credit to Meta for stepping forward. But voluntarily implementing tools like this on a platform-by-platform basis doesn't go far enough to address the issue, and parents really do need more. We need better laws. We need governments to step in. We need a much more concerted effort across society, not just from one vendor on one app.
Well, laws and governments, they tend to take time to address these sorts of things. So what, Carmi, can parents do right now that would make a difference?
They can talk to their kids. They can, walk through this website with them. They can talk about what sextortion looks like. They can, understand, ask the hard questions. Is this something that you've seen online, either in your own experiences or maybe in your friends? We know the kids are incredibly embarrassed about it. And by being adversarial and aggressive, parents force their kids underground. So make sure that you establish that trust relationship with your kids. And they should know that they can come to you and have these hard conversations so that if they do come across this online, they can trust you. They can come to you for that assistance. Otherwise, you're never even going to know that it's a problem until it's too late.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. Do you expect more from Meta and others, more of these types of measures because of all the pressure?
I absolutely do. I mean, we know full well that they are under growing pressure, both in the U.S. and in Canada, from legislators to straighten up and fly right. And so they're not doing this voluntarily. They know full well that if they don't step forward and do this, governments are going to make them do it. So, we are heading in the right direction. But, this is a business. And when you implement tools like this to make it harder for adults to contact kids, from Meta's perspective, it undermines their bottom line. It reduces the effectiveness of their very business model. They're not doing this voluntarily. And so it's this constant battle between capitalism and doing what's right for our kids. And hopefully the right side wins.
Let's hope. CTV tech analyst Carmi Levy, thanks so much for breaking this down for us.
Appreciate being here, Michelle. Thanks.
Bye. Well, there's a warning about a new scam involving criminals pretending they have images of people looking at inappropriate material online.
It's being called a sextortion scam because they say if you don't pay money, they'll release embarrassing images to your family and friends. CTV's Pat Foran has the story.
It is very unnerving. It's very upsetting.
A woman we'll call Alexandra asked us not to identify her, but she wanted to share an unsettling email she received that said she had been recorded looking at pornography. The email said, "I've got access to all your emails, contacts, and social media accounts." She was concerned because they did have a lot of her personal information.
They had my name, address, email, cell phone, and a picture of the street on which my home is.
She was told her computer had been taken over remotely and compromising video and images of her had been recorded.
They had my browsing history and they had photos of me viewing inappropriate sites, and that they were going to disclose that.
The email also said, "I can't even fathom the humiliation you'll face when your colleagues, friends, and family see it, and I will wipe everything clean once you send payment." She was told to send $1,900 US using a Bitcoin machine.
The tone was extremely threatening and urgent, like you have to act now or else.
But Alexandra says she has never looked at inappropriate websites, knew it was a scam, and contacted police.
They're scammers. Their entire living is made on trying to deceive people and trick people into giving them money.
York Regional Police issued a warning about sextortion scams, saying criminals may be harvesting information from data breaches. Once they find your address, getting a photo of your home is easy to do.
All these people have to do once they have your home address is throw it into Google Maps, and they're able to get a very good and oftentimes very recent photo of your property.
It's advisable to limit the amount of personal information you share online. Police say if you get one of these emails, do not provide payment and do not respond. Run a virus or malware scan of your computer and report the email to police.
And that report from CTV's Pat Foran. The Canada Revenue Agency says the next child care benefit payment will be deposited tomorrow. The tax-free payment will be sent to eligible families to help with the cost of living while raising children under the age of 18. The remaining payments for this year are set to come November 20th and December 13th. The amount received depends on factors like shared custody and children with disabilities.
It may feel like Billy Joel hasn't played Toronto for the longest time, but the music legend is preparing to change that.
His only show in Canada in 2025. Billy Joel.
Billy Joel has not performed in the city in over a decade. Today, he set a concert at the Rogers Centre for March 15th, 2025. While he played Scotiabank Arena in 2014, the beloved recording artist is making his return to the home of the Blue Jays for the first time in 30 years. Tickets go on sale to the general public October 25th.
The captain led the way as the Toronto Maple Leafs hosted LA last night.
On the tape, Marner, Matthews, and he fanned on it, reload, and scores! There's his first as the captain, and number 200 on home ice.
Matthews also had his first 2 assists of the season in a 6-2 win. Bobby McMahon scored twice for Toronto, who welcomes the Rangers to town on Saturday.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
We are following breaking news out of Ontario's top court, which has handed a victory to a group of youth challenging the province's climate plans. 7 young people argued a weakened emissions target is a violation of their constitutional rights. A lower court justice had ruled the case should be dismissed, but the top court says that wasn't a correct consideration of the matter and it should be heard again. The ruling didn't specify what kind of remedy could be ordered if that application is successful. Now, we'll have more details on the significance of this ruling and the province's response on CTV News at 5 and 6.
Canadian investors are into heavy metals. Toronto stocks hit a record high this morning on fresh strength in uranium and gold miners.
Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. The Toronto Composite Stock Index hit a new record today, above 24,600. It was lifted by gold stocks as bullion hovered near all-time highs. Uranium stocks also jumped again, with internet giants turning to nuclear power to run their data centers. America's S&P 500 index also traded at a new high. U.S. retail sales strengthened last month by more than forecast. Mind you, some of that might just be shoppers buying early for the holiday. Bloomberg says many Americans are passing up on rush shipping on their online purchases to save costs, and that has weighed on the shares of FedEx and UPS. And finally, Sea-Doo and ski-doo maker BRP plans to sell off most of its marine businesses. They have been weighed down by soft consumer demand. The brands for sale include Alumacraft fishing boats and Manitou pontoon vessels, but not Sea-Doo watercraft. BRP shares have dropped 25% in the past year. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
Traders are watching Uber's next steps closely as reports suggest the company is mulling a major move into the travel booking market. The Financial Times reports Uber has been exploring a possible bid for online travel booking giant Expedia. Shares in Expedia have been climbing as a result of this report, which said Uber had approached advisors about the idea in recent months. Sources stressed no formal approach was made and there are no current talks. Representatives for the two companies haven't commented.
The University of Toronto and University of Waterloo are getting a major cash injection to help advance their supercomputers. The federal and provincial governments have invested $95 million to increase storage capacity of a computer system known as GRAM. The supercomputers are used in various fields of research, including climate change, healthcare, and sustainable transportation.
As temperatures trend lower and respiratory viruses spread, Toronto Public Health is encouraging residents to get vaccinated. Updated COVID-19 vaccines are already available for priority groups and those at increased risk. They'll be offered to all residents aged 6 months and up on October 28th. Flu vaccines will also be available and can be administered at the same time. Publicly funded RSV vaccines are also available for certain high-risk groups. Toronto Public Health said adults above 60 who aren't included can speak to their healthcare provider about receiving it at a cost. Coming up, we'll see a view of beautiful British Columbia like never before seen.
Well, it's a view of our country through a very tiny lens.
We're talking about the Little Canada exhibit near Yonge and Dundas Square, and like our nation itself, its miniature version is growing.
From Rogers Pass through the Selkirk Mountains to the soaring skyline of Vancouver to the majestically lit legislature in Victoria, it is the vast beauty and splendor of British Columbia presented in a much smaller scale.
Detail's fantastic. You think of the amount of time that's being spent to make every aspect of it realistic. It's incredible.
To create Little West Coast, the latest addition to Little Canada, located in the heart of downtown Toronto, 30 people spent a full year designing and building the iconic landscapes and locations of British Columbia. Just deciding what and what not to include took 6 months alone.
In the case of Little West Coast was how much do we give to Vancouver? If we give more to Vancouver, it means less of other parts of West Coast.
From fog coming off the mountains to a search and rescue helicopter in action, a school of orcas off the island, to beaches covered in driftwood. You can see the Capilano Suspension Bridge, Victoria Harbour, Gastown, and Granville Island, all in a matter of minutes.
This is the BC Place.
When Little Canada began back in 2011, most of the building was done using modified models, but now most of the work is done through 3D printing. For BC, more than 8,000 trees were made by hand, and though model trains may seem like the easiest part of the project, the SkyTrain had to be made from scratch. There are also hidden homes of famous British Columbians, from Emily Carr to the childhood residence of Ryan Reynolds. Everything here is done in a 1:87 scale.
It's a heck of a job to put all of Canada into one building. They do a pretty good job.
Building a small-scale replica of this country has been the passion of founder Jean-Louis Brennickmeyer for nearly 15 years.
Canada has so much to celebrate and so much to offer, and it's one place where Canadians and even visitors who will never have the opportunity to see all of the country in their lifetime, to be able to come here and see all of the country from coast to coast to coast.
Beginning with Toronto and building across the country, the ever-growing exhibit has been open to Canadians and international visitors since 2021, allowing people to travel across the world's second-largest country in just a few steps. Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
And it's a good day to take in the real experience in Toronto because we have the beautiful, gorgeous weather. We've been eyeing this all week, Jess.
And it only honestly gets better from here. So if you do have outdoor plans, you're still one of those brave folks wearing shorts and t-shirt, the next couple of days are for you. You can maybe put the jacket away for a little while. We're sitting kind of in the mid-teen range, so very seasonal throughout the day today. And then the heat is on as we head in towards our Friday and throughout the weekend. Not much going on in the satellite radar picture because there are just no clouds, even high-level clouds. Nothing going on, which means it is high pressure holding firmly, keeping the sky nice and clear, very calm, very stable conditions, and a light southerly flow to the winds. 12 degrees right now, 13 through Windsor, 11 out in Ottawa, but overall it is beautiful outside. Heading into our Friday, up to 18 degrees. We're looking at not a cloud in the sky really and truly until probably Tuesday of next week, and I will take it.
Yeah. As will I. Thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6.